Okay. Are we really living in the end times? In Matthew 24 and verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? What shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? Yeshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Messiah, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and numerous wars, and that you should see to it that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows. In Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which stands for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. They that turn many to righteousness are righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words, seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. We all ask, are we living in the end times right now? The answer to these questions are, well, look in the Bible. History and current events for yourself, and then you decide. There have been many well-meaning teachers, pastors, and Bible students who have taught that their generation will see the second coming of Messiah. I have no problem with these people. It is good and biblical to be vigilant. However, there are others that have erroneously predicted the actual day of his second coming. Stay clear of these people. These are the nutcases, the lunatic fringes, and the biblically ignorant. The Bible is crystal clear about setting dates. In Matthew 24, verse 36, Yeshua says, Of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. Still, there are people that continue in their vain attempt to be modern-day prophets. Edgar Weisenant sold 4.3 million copies of his book detailing why Christ would come in 1988. December 31st, 1988, came and went, and no Messiah. The next year, he sold 30,000 copies of a book he wrote detailing why Christ would come in 1989. December 31st, 1989, came and went, and no Messiah. If you don't get it the first time, try again, right? After missing it twice, the retired NASA engineer who lived in a one-room shack outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, said he could stand in front of the Lord and say, I gave it my best shot. It would have been far greater if Weisenstein would shoot for reading the Bible before making a fool of himself. Acts 1, verse 6 and 7 is another text warning us not to set dates or times. The disciples asked Yeshua after he was resurrected, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? Verse 7, he said to them, It is not for you to know the times or the season which the Father has fixed by his own authority. Did you hear that? Amen. Not even Yeshua Messiah himself knows when the Father is sending him. It's similar to what the military does before deployment. A sergeant in charge of the duty roster calls you at home and tells you to get to the base ASAP. He tells you to bring all your gear minus your field jacket and sleeping bag and tells you to kiss your wife and kids goodbye for a while. You have just 2 hours to get your affairs in order. The clock starts ticking. You can't find your jungle boots. He hinted you were going somewhere warm. If you are not there in less than 120 minutes, you will be considered AWOL. You can't find your bug spray either. You ask your wife, where's my bug juice? As if she really knows. Finally, you find the missing items and your wife and kids take you to the battalion. You wonder if this is really it. It is. You ask the first sergeant, where are we going? He says, you'll know when you get there. It's not for you to know right now. The same way, for some reason, that only Yahweh, the Father, knows himself. He doesn't even tell his only begotten Son when his time will be to return in glory to this earth. Don't try to figure out why this is so. We have to be content with the fact that there are some things we will never know until we arrive. But when that duty sergeant calls and says not to bring cold weather gear, he did give him a hint as to where we were going. Our Heavenly Father has done the same for us. Since we are all in Yahweh's army, we must be prepared at all times for the inevitable. As certain as the prophets of old were that Yeshua would come the first time, and he did, we are 5 times as sure that he will come the second time, because the second coming is predicted 5 times as often as the first. Let's look at some of the hints that our Father has given us. In Daniel 12, verse 4, Daniel is commanded, but you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. What words and what book was Daniel commanded to shut up and seal? We are clearly told in Daniel 12, verse 1, at that time shall arise Michael, the great prince who has charge of your people. And Daniel's people, of course, are the Israelites. And there shall be a time of trouble such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. A clear reference to the Great Tribulation. But at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. These people who will be delivered, like I said before, are Israelites, but these are a special group of Israelites. These are tribulation saints of Israelite descent who come to a saving knowledge of Messiah during the Great Tribulation. And the book that Daniel refers to is the book of life. Let's focus now on the latter portion of verse 4, where it says, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Here is our first hint of signs of the times that the second coming is drawing close, ever closer. I believe the phrase, many shall run to and fro, is a clear reference to the ability of mankind to travel to any spot of the globe in a relatively short period of time. In the Hebrew, run to and fro means to pass through a land. Not until the 20th century has mankind been able, nor has he succeeded in traveling to or passing through every parcel of land on the earth. Ronald Amundsen, the Norwegian polar explorer, on December 14, 1911, reached the South Pole, becoming the first person known to have accomplished this feat. He and 2 other explorers, an American and an Italian, were the first to cross the North Pole by air in 1926. You and I can hop on a plane and fly to any part of this planet, provided that some of the passengers don't carry box cutters and shout, there is only one God and his prophet is Muhammad. And then they ruin the flight by flying it into a skyscraper. Then Daniel speaks of knowledge increasing, beginning with the telegraph, telephones, radio, television, computers, and now we have the internet. We can know virtually anything in a matter of seconds with a flick of our fingers if we have a modem and a computer and an internet service provider, ISP like American Online, or CompuServe, Microsoft Network, or a host of other internet companies. Now let's take a look at some of the signs of the end that Yeshua himself warned us to be on the lookout for. Signs that he said would come to pass just before his second coming and the end of the world as we know it now. At the beginning of Matthew chapter 16, Yeshua's religious enemies challenged him to show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said to them, "When it's evening, you say, 'It will be fair weather, for the sky is red.' And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and threatening." Hypocrites, you know how to discern the face of the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the times. Today's modern technology has vastly improved our ability to forecast the weather. But are we any less blind to the ominous signs of the times in which we are now living? The foremost passage of the entire Bible to determine the signs or hints that the second coming of Messiah is imminent can be found in Matthew chapter 24, from the very words of Yeshua himself. In verse 3, Matthew chapter 24, verse 3, it says, "As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, 'Tell us, when will this be, and what will the sign of your coming and of the close of the age?'" Verse 5 gives us his first tip-off. "For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am Messiah,' and they will lead many astray." As the time of Christ's return draws near, there will be more and more individuals who actually claim to be Jesus Christ or Yeshua Messiah. Someone once claimed that since 1900, over 1,100 people have claimed to be Christ. I'm not sure where he came up with that number, 1,100. But there have been scores of people this century who claim to be Messiah, including Jim Jones of the People's Temple, Moses Gibbery, David Koresh of the Branch Davidian, and Christ Matera. The Jewish World Review, just several years ago, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the late leader of the Lubavitch movement based in New York City, was believed by his followers to be a Messiah. The Lubavitch movement denies this, but in a recent visit to the movement's Crown Heights headquarters, revealed a large banner in its main sanctuary proclaiming Rabbi Schneerson, the Anointed One. In case you don't know, Messiah means the Anointed One. And children attending the movement's educational institutions are encouraged to consider their late beloved leader, the Messiah who will rise from the dead. On December 24th, 1997, God's Salvation Church, a cult similar to the Heaven's Gate group located in Garland, Texas, claimed that one of their children in the group is a reincarnation of Jesus Christ. They believe that God will arrive in a spaceship on March 31st, 1998. It's 2015 now. I guess they're still waiting. Marshall Applewhite of the Heaven's Gate UFO cult was apparently considered a reincarnation of Christ, or another being like Christ, by his followers. This is not to mention Father Divine, Charles Manson, Maharaja Ji, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi of the Transcendental Meditation fame, and the Dalai Lama of Tibet, who was the 1989 Nobel Peace Prize winner. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's chief propagandist, said in a broadcast on the 19th of April, 1936, that Germany has been transformed into a great house of the Lord, where the Führer, as our mediator, stands before the throne of God. It was Hitler himself who ordered that he be presented as a deified Messiah. Another powerful voice in the Nazi Party, Dr. Robert Ley, proclaimed that we believe on this earth in Adolf Hitler alone. We believe in National Socialism as the creed which is the sole source of grace. Joseph Stalin, a former seminary student, used his theological training to develop a program to deify the leaders of the Russian Revolution of 1917. It was Stalin's belief that Russians were forever looking for a God Tsar, so he decided to present them a new God. In place of the one overthrown by the Bolsheviks, the new God Tsar was an atheist messiah, the god Vladimir Lenin. The majority of believers believe that the presence of these false messiahs, of which I've mentioned only a few, will accumulate in the appearance of the one final Antichrist, who is mentioned in 1 John chapter 2, verse 18. Little children, it is the last time. And as you have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. With breathtaking advances in mass media, this time more than any other time in history, false messiahs can disseminate their messages on a worldwide scale. But very soon, a false messiah will be widely accepted on a worldwide scale. In verse 11, Yeshua added, "And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because wickedness is multiplied, most men's love will grow cold. There are many who believe in Yeshua is the only way to heaven. But the Bible is Yahweh's inspired and inerrant word, yet do not have the love of Yahweh in their hearts." In John 13:35, Yeshua says, "By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. If we do not love one another," by this I mean agape love, not a liver-quivering feeling of sentiment of seeking someone else's highest good, then it's time we reevaluate our faith. Matthew 7:21 is the most frightening passage to me in the entire Bible. Amen. In it, Yeshua says, Matthew 7, verse 21, "Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name? And in thy name have cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity. Therefore whosoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him unto a wise man which builds his house upon a rock." Love for others, including your enemies, is the surest indication that we are true disciples of Yeshua. Let us not allow our love to grow cold. Amen. You can love the people, but not what they do. Matthew 24, verse 6, Yeshua gives us another clue. 24, verse 6, "And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in different places. All these things are the beginning of sorrow." Another version puts verse 8, "All this is but the beginning of birth pains." Historians all agree that the 20th century was unparalleled in the scale of human misery created by other humans. No period has witnessed an escalation of wars as has the 20th century. Red Cross has estimated that over 100 million people have been killed in wars since the 20th century began. This is not including the genocide of the Russians opposed to Stalin, the Jews exterminated during the Holocaust, Idi Amin or Pol Pot or Mao Zedong, evil, bloodthirsty regimes. Up until 1914, war had never been universal. But in both World War I and II, total war was waged. Since World War II, there have been numerous major wars and hundreds of rebellions and revolutions. The death toll is in conflicts since the end of World War II has topped 23 million people. Yeshua also predicted in verse 7 that there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in various places. On March 27, 1964, Alaska was devastated by a massive earthquake measuring 8.4 on the Richter scale. In the 30 years since the Great Alaskan Quake, there have been many major earthquakes as in the entire previous 2,000 years in world history. The World Almanac tells us that there were only 21 earthquakes of major strength between the years of 1000 and 1800. Between the years 1800 and 1900, there was 18 major earthquakes. Between the next 50 years, between 1900 and 1950, there was 33 major earthquakes. Between 1950 and 91, there was 95 major earthquakes, almost tripling the number of these previous half-centuries and claiming the lives of 1.3 million people around the world. This dramatic increase of severe quakes has led many scientists to predict that we are entering into a new great period of seismic disturbance. And I looked it up and about earthquakes. Total number of earthquakes per year with 8 or higher magnitude is 1. Total number of earthquakes per year with magnitude between 7, and it goes down the list. And keeps going down to the largest recorded earthquake was 9.5. Total number of detectable earthquakes in the world yearly, 5 million. Total number of earthquakes in California each year, 10,000. Total death at which most earthquakes take place, total depthness, how deep it is 50 miles deep. This is from the Earthquake Disaster Statistics. This is only between 1980 and 2008. You can't get updated information on things on the internet. They're usually lagging 3 to 5 years behind today's date. There shall be famines and pestilences. Matthew 24, verse 7. The HIV virus, which caused AIDS, has currently infected at least 34 million people around the globe. That's 2011 totals I pulled off the internet. In 1993, AIDS became the leading cause of death of the U.S. males between the ages of 20 and 45. 2011 deaths, 1,700,000. However, AIDS is not the only modern plague to affect mankind. Virtually unheard of among our ancestors, over 100 different kinds of cancer now kill over 5 million people every year. In 2015, there will be an estimated 1,658,370 new cancer cases diagnosed and 589,430 deaths, cancer deaths in the U.S. alone. That's not worldwide. According to the cancer is a leading cause of death worldwide, accounted for 8.2 million deaths. This is listed in 2012. The depletion of the ozone layer, which blocks much of the sun's UV radiation, is thought to be responsible for a dramatic rise in melanoma, a deadly skin cancer. I had a neighbor that died from that. The world recession, resulting in poverty and homelessness, has devastated the healthcare systems of many countries, and diseases once thought banished by modern science have made an alarming comeback. Epidemics of typhoid and diphtheria, even Black Death, have afflicted many areas of India and former Soviet Union. Deadly new strains of malaria, tuberculosis and cholera, and becoming resistant to all known antibiotics, now killing millions of people. The most underrated health epidemic, known as the Spanish influenza pandemic, because it grew to worldwide proportion, is believed to have been born in early March 1918, after soldiers at Fort Riley, Kansas, burned tons of manure. 2 days later, the first soldiers reported feeling sick. 48 soldiers died at Fort Riley, which is a listed cause of pneumonia, but the virus behind the sickness followed the troop movement to Europe, and more became infected, and sickness grew more deadly in the process. Worldwide, the epidemic killed 20 to 40 million people. In the United States, estimates place the death toll between 500,000 to 675,000. As a comparison, fewer than 300,000 people died during World War II. The specter of resurgent smallpox is ominous, especially given the enormous efforts that have been made to eradicate what has been characterized as the most devastating of all pestilential diseases. Unfortunately, the threat of an aerosol released by terrorist elements of smallpox is real, and the potential for a catastrophic scenario is great, and thus effective control measures can be quickly brought to bear. How then should we respond? Or how then shall we live? Yeshua told us in Matthew 24, verse 6, "See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is not yet." All of these clues do not suggest the end of the world has come. Yes, Messiah can come at any time, but look with me at verse 8. All this is but the beginning of birth pains. When a woman begins getting labor pains, it did not mean that in the next moment the child would be born. Her first contraction was merely a sign that her 9 months of labor were coming to an end. My nephew just had a baby, born to him and his wife, and I asked him, how long did the labor last? He said from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30. I says, well, that's not too bad. In a couple hours. He says, no, that's 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. What I have just discussed right now to you, what I've just discussed is just the initial birth pains. Soon, we will end with the signs that where the contractions are intense. And what must happen when history will be in the very last phase. Yahweh bless you. He will come. Keep watching.